The Fall and Rise of Adolf Hitler and the Causes of the Jewish Holocaust. In the ashes of a defeated Germany, a storm was brewing, one that would change the world forever. The rise of Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party, began in the chaos of the early 20th century. What started as a personal vendetta against a broken nation would soon become a force of destruction that led to the murder of millions. Today, we will explore Hitler's rise, the fall of his empire, and the reasons behind one of the darkest chapters in human history, the Holocaust. To understand Hitler's rise to power, we must first look at the aftermath of World War I. In 1918, Germany faced defeat. The Treaty of Versailles, in 1919, imposed harsh terms on the country, enormous reparations, territorial losses, and a humiliation that sparked resentment among the German people. The Weimar Republic, the democratic government that took control after the Kaiser's abdication, was weak and unstable. By the early 1920s, the country was suffering from hyperinflation, unemployment, and widespread poverty. The economic turmoil, combined with a national identity crisis, created fertile ground for extremist ideologies. In the midst of this chaos, Adolf Hitler, an obscure ex-soldier, emerged as a leader. His experiences during World War I left him embittered and filled with a sense of betrayal. Hitler believed that Germany had been stabbed in the back by the Jews and Marxists who, in his view, had undermined the war effort. In 1923, Hitler made his first attempt at seizing power through the infamous Beer Hall Putsch in Munich. The attempt failed, and Hitler was arrested, but it brought him national attention. While in prison, Hitler wrote his manifesto, Mein Kampf, in which he laid out his vision for a racially pure Germany, the superiority of the Aryan race, and his hatred for Jews, communists, and other perceived enemies. The 1920s ended with the Great Depression, a worldwide economic collapse that devastated Germany even further. Unemployment soared, and political instability reached a peak. During this time, Hitler and his Nazi Party tapped into the fear, frustration, and anger of the German people, promising a return to national glory. Hitler's speeches were powerful, filled with promises of hope for the downtrodden and scapegoats for the country's problems. The Nazis, under Hitler's leadership, began to gain support from various sectors of German society: nationalists, veterans, and the disenfranchised working class. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. His rise to power was not the result of a violent coup, but rather the result of political maneuvering and deals with conservative elites who thought they could control him. However, Hitler's ability to manipulate the system quickly showed that his ambitions were much grander. Once in power, Hitler wasted no time in consolidating control. The Reichstag fire in 1933 allowed him to push through emergency decrees that suspended civil liberties and eliminated political opposition. The Night of the Long Knives in 1934 saw the elimination of internal Nazi rivals, securing Hitler's absolute control. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws were enacted, stripping Jews of their citizenship and rights, laying the groundwork for the horrors that would come. By the late 1930s, Hitler's aggressive foreign policies were leading Germany into conflict with the rest of Europe. His ambition to expand German territory led to the invasion of Poland in 1939, starting World War II. But it wasn't just the war that would bring about the most horrific legacy of Hitler's rule. From the very beginning of his rule, Hitler's hatred of Jews was at the core of his ideology. He blamed Jews for Germany's defeat in World War I, for communism, and for a perceived threat to the purity of the Aryan race. This deep-seated anti-Semitism culminated in policies of exclusion, discrimination, and violence. In 1938, Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, saw the widespread destruction of Jewish businesses, homes, and synagogues. Jewish men were arrested, beaten, and sent to concentration camps. This marked the beginning of a more violent and systematic persecution of Jews. As Nazi forces expanded their reach across Europe, the full scale of the Holocaust began to unfold. The decision to systematically exterminate the Jews was formalized at the Wannsee Conference in 1942. With the invasion of the Soviet Union, mobile killing units known as Einsatzgruppen began mass shootings of Jews, Roma, and others deemed undesirable by the Nazis. The final solution was the Nazi plan to murder all Jews in Europe. The construction of death camps such as Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor marked the industrialization of genocide. 6 million Jews were systematically killed in gas chambers, mass shootings, and forced labor camps. The Holocaust was not only the result of Hitler's ideology, but also the culmination of centuries of anti-Semitism and scapegoating. The Nazis created an environment where the dehumanization of Jews and other groups, such as Roma, disabled individuals, and political dissidents, was normalized. By 1945, the tide of the war had turned. The Allied forces advanced from the west, and the Soviet army pushed from the east. As Germany collapsed under the weight of defeat, Hitler's empire crumbled. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker in Berlin, ending his reign of terror. Germany was left in ruins, with millions dead and entire communities destroyed. The Holocaust had left an indelible mark on the world, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, hatred, and intolerance. The fall of Adolf Hitler marks the end of one of the darkest chapters in human history. But the lessons learned from the rise of Nazism and the Holocaust are still relevant today. It reminds us that the power of propaganda, the dangers of extreme nationalism, and the consequences of turning a blind eye to hatred can lead to unimaginable suffering. It is our responsibility to remember the victims of the Holocaust, to educate future generations, and to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. The rise and fall of Adolf Hitler was a story of power, fear, and destruction. But the victims of the Holocaust, particularly the 6 million Jews who perished, are a testament to the strength of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable cruelty